The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Many of Jesus' disciples who were listening said, "This saying is hard. Who can accept it?" Since Jesus knew that his disciples were murmuring about this, he said to them, "Does this shock you? What if you were to see the Son of Man ascending to where he was before? It is the Spirit that gives life, while the flesh is of no avail. The words I have spoken to you are spirit and life, but there are some of you who do not believe." Jesus knew from the beginning the ones who would not believe and the one who would betray him. And he said, "For this reason I have told you that no one can come to me unless it is granted him by my Father." As a result of this, many of his disciples returned to their former way of life and no longer accompanied him. Jesus said to the 12, "Do you also want to leave?" Simon Peter answered him, "Master, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. We have come to believe and are convinced that you are the Holy One of God." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Today we come to the end of chapter 6 of John's Gospel. We've covered the whole chapter over 5 weeks. Kind of felt like we crawled through this chapter. If you listen carefully, you will hear a collective sigh of relief from priests everywhere. Finally, next week, I'm going to get to preach about something else. This all began with a large crowd of people following Jesus. They followed him because they saw the signs he was performing on the sick. He wanted to feed them, but they only had a little bit of food. And even that was borrowed from a young boy who brought his lunch. With 5 loaves and 2 fish, Jesus fed this whole crowd. Jesus thought they would want to make him king. So he slipped away, but they caught up to him the next day. He wanted them to see that they had a deeper hunger. And he could satisfy that hunger because he was the bread of life. And that's when the people started to have trouble. When it was just plain old bread, everything was fine. It was food, and there was plenty of it, and they ate their fill, and Jesus should be king. When he talked about being the bread of life, they had problems. Now he was asking something of them. They weren't sure they wanted to go there. In a way, we face the same dilemma today. When it's just Eucharist here in church, everything is fine. We have no problems. In here, we're all on the same page. We know the songs, we know the responses, we know when to stand and sit and kneel. But we gather here to be sent. We gather here to be nourished by Jesus, to be nourished with his word and his body and blood. Then we're sent out to be Jesus in the world. We're sent to be his love and mercy and forgiveness, to put others first and serve as Jesus did, to give our lives in service of others. And that's when we can have some problems. Because Jesus is now, that's beginning to have an impact on us and how we live. Through these weeks, our psalm response has been, "Taste and see how good the Lord is." What that's telling us to do is to give God's way a try. Be nourished with the bread of life, with the Eucharist and the Word. Be filled with the presence of Jesus and go out and be Jesus in the world. Live it out and see how it works for us and for others. Taste and see how good it can be. In our first reading, Joshua offered the people a choice: serve the Lord or serve other gods. We are, every time we are sent out from here, we're given that same choice. We are sent out saying, go in peace, glorifying the Lord by your life. Go live out what we have become. That choice is up to us.